Welcome, friends. People will be joining us over these next few minutes, and we welcome everybody as they're able to join us. Yeah, I'm very glad that we could all be here today. I want to welcome you to this event. And I'm Lori Sinitsky, the conference coordinator. I use she, her pronouns. I have some housekeeping reminders and announcements for us. A reminder that this consultation is being recorded, so friends who are not able to join us will be able to benefit from the work that we do here together today. So, and that is except for the worship portions of the program and the people of color affinity spaces. Those will not be recorded. If you do not want to be recorded, you can turn off your camera, and we suggest changing your name to something anonymous like participant. Also, we invite you to add pronouns to your digital name tag. So for example, I use she, her pronouns, and you can see those on my name tag. To change your name tag, you can hover over your image with your cursor and click on the three dots, choose the option to rename, and type in your name and pronouns. So please update your name if necessary and add pronouns that you would like friends to use when referring to you. Instructions on how to change your name will also be posted in the chat. Please stay muted until you're ready to speak, and remember to unmute, remute yourself when you're done speaking. Callers, people calling in on the phone, can mute and unmute by pressing *6, and they can raise their digital hand by pressing *9. We do have live transcription available, and if you have a newer version of Zoom, you can turn that on or hide it by going to the control bar in your window and looking for the little box that says CC with the words live transcript underneath. If you click on that box in your toolbar, several options will show up. Show subtitle, view transcript, and you can hide or show the transcription by doing that. That option may not be available to you if you don't have a newer version of Zoom right now. There will be an affinity space for people of color during the lunch break from 1 to 1:40 Eastern, 12 to 12:40 Central, 11 to 11:40 Mountain, and 10 to 10:45 Pacific. If you live life and identify as a person of color, we invite you to this affinity space breakout room. We provide an affinity space breakout room for people of color to come together in community in an environment with friends who have shared experiences. And I'll provide instructions for how people of color can meet in that breakout room after the panel. I want to introduce Ruth Reber, who hopefully will wave at you, who's been working to organize this consultation. I also want to thank our tech team, including Ann Jerome, who's been coordinating our tech team. They will be assisting us today. If you find that you need tech support, type your question or problem in the chat, and the tech team will do their best to assist you. And now back to Barry.
Thank you, Lori. So we wish to acknowledge that the FGC offices are located on unceded Lenape land, and want you to know that a robust land acknowledgement is coming up later in the panel. We'll now settle into a short period of worship. Please remember to keep yourself muted unless you are ready to offer ministry. Mute yourself again when you are done. Speak clearly into your mic. If you unmute yourself and do not speak after a few seconds, we will mute you again. During meeting for worship, chat will be reserved for technical questions shared with the host. Let's settle in.
Now, I'm delighted to introduce Peterson Toscano. Many of you are familiar with Peterson's justice and equity through storytelling work. Peterson has successfully moved his work from in-person to online, and we're grateful for his leadership and guidance today. Peterson?
Hello, friends. I am very excited to be with you, and The opportunities that exist with Zoom is that we can be together. I'm actually not in the United States at the moment. I moved to South Africa with my husband in January, but here we are all together. So hello and welcome to this panel that we've put together, a very special panel entitled, What Have We Learned? Spirit and Community Building Online. What you are about to experience is not a normal panel. You will experience a zoomed up panel with friends who have experience in creating and facilitating online gatherings and events. And instead of telling you what we did, we're each going to give you a chance to experience what we do. And so one of the goals is to provide a session that will be both educational and practical. Additionally, we want to foster community, reflection, and worship. And there's going to be some fun because that's an important part of this. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Peterson Toscano. I refer to myself as a quirky, queer Quaker concerned about climate change. Our other facilitators are Jean Marie Barch. Wave, say hi, Jean Marie.
Hello, everybody, from Elkins Park.
Kate Griffith.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kat in Ripon, Wisconsin.
I'm sorry. And Kai Quirk.
Hello, I'm Kai from Ithaca, New York.
And you're going to find their bios in the chat. You may have seen these bios before as you signed up, but their bios are in the chat. So Kat, Jean Marie, and Kai, they're each going to present something. And you're about to take part in a series of activities that will lead. Immediately after each of the 4 activities, those of us on the panel will discuss the activity. We'll discuss why we included it and what needs activities like these serve in creating community and a worship space. So each time will be a little reflection. And I'm going to begin by showing a short film that I produced. This film acknowledges the time we are in right now. We're still in a pandemic. It's been over a year, but we're still in it. That's partly why we're online. That's why we're here. And you may recognize some of the experiences in the film from your own life and the lives of people that you know. So I'm going to show you the film, and then when it's done, I'm going to give you a prompt to consider, and then give you a chance to reflect on that prompt, and then we'll actually give you a chance to get into a breakout room to be part of that discussion. So let me just get to the place I need to be.
This time has been so difficult for many people. Parents have not been able to see children. Grandparents have not been able to see grandchildren. People feel isolated, disconnected from society and friends, family. There's people who are very capable in their work who have suddenly lost that work for no fault of their own. They're young people who have not seen their friends except to interact with them online. And now we're hearing more and more people who are losing their homes, people who pay rent and just can't pay anymore and have to figure out what to do, where to live. Young people who found refuge going to college, starting a new life, maybe getting away from parents who don't see the world the same way as they do, suddenly are not just back at home, but stuck at home. They can't go to a cafe to work for a couple of hours or a library. They're in their house with a parent who may be abusive, unaccepting. This time of coronavirus has been a strain for lots of people, particularly older folks who live alone, not able to get family and friends to visit like maybe they used to, not able to get out and about like they used to. It's a time of great suffering and, of course, great empathy, great love, great outpouring of care for each other. But it doesn't take away from the fear, the pain, the sorrow that many people feel during this time of coronavirus.
Now we're seeing the end of this virus, which is encouraging, but it's taking its time and it's taken its toll. It's easy to remember how we've suffered, but sometimes it's harder to remember how we've helped others. So I'm going to give you a moment, literally a minute, to spend a little time in reflection with the following prompt. How did you help someone during the pandemic? How did your meeting, your community, or another group during this time help someone? The tech folks are going to put that into the chat. And I want you just to think about that, about something you did very specifically, or maybe a series of things you did. But how did you help someone during the pandemic, and how did your meeting or your community or another group help during this time? You have 1 minute to quietly think about that. I'm sure all of you have found ways to be helpful to others, and we're going to give you a chance to share some of these with a handful of other people in breakout rooms. There'll be 3, maybe 4 people in a breakout room. We're going to be in breakout rooms for 5 minutes. And when you get to the breakout room, I want you first to have someone just choose to be the timekeeper and do that quickly. And this person's job is basically to just monitor and say, hey, we've got 4 people, we have 5 minutes, so you got about 1 minute each. And so if someone seems to be talking a lot, move them along gently so that everyone gets a chance to say something. And beginning with the timekeeper, once you establish who that is, share your name, where you're from, and share one example of how you helped someone or a group of people during the pandemic. And then go to the next person. And you should all definitely have a chance to speak. In the chat, you will see these instructions. And I think it's just time to go and connect with some other friends and share how you've been helpful during the pandemic.
If anyone is still here in the main room and would like to be moved into a breakout room, please just let me know and I'll make it happen.
Yeah, that's why a timekeeper is important. And even then, it's like, wow. So thank you for all that you did to help your meeting, to help other people. And I really appreciate that. Now, my fellow panelists, Kat and Jean Marie and Kai, we're going to talk a bit about this opening, this coronavirus film I showed, and this activity, because it is an activity we want to model. So panelists, what questions, what reflections do you have about this presentation we just took part in?
Peterson, I love your video. I find it so tendering, and each time I see it, I tear up. Every time I tear up, and it brings me to a place where I'm just ready to love somebody, ready to cry, ready to hug somebody, ready to whatever. What are you hoping for when you do that? How do you think that opens up a good space for our work together?
I think it does. I'm hoping it does two things. One, it affirms people and validates the suffering that they've been through. And sometimes we need to hear it. I think sometimes we're going along and we're just plowing through, but it's not a bad thing to be reminded, you've been through a hard time. And I think what I'm hoping too, it will also stir up some empathy for other people who have different experiences, because like so many things with this pandemic, we've experienced it differently depending on who we are, our race, our gender, our location in the world, and we haven't experienced it equally. So I think that's helpful to just to feel that.
My own experience mirrors Kat's, but part of what I wonder about, Peterson, is for those folks who don't have a resonant response to the film, what are the ways to help support them to not feel guilty or inadequate, that they don't feel like they did enough?
Well, it's part of it is the prompt. Like, I know this is a group of people who probably have done something for somebody. And so that if I'm thinking that I might be with a group, like maybe some high school students who don't have the same opportunities to help others, I may have a different prompt then, where it might be a prompt about like, think about someone who, you know, maybe suffered more in coronavirus than you, to kind of stir up that empathy part of it. But one of the reasons why I do this at the beginning of the presentation, the overall presentation, is coronavirus. And something like this is very distracting. And right now it's coronavirus, but you know, it was like this with 9/11. It was like this with, you know, a presidential election. There's usually something happening in the world that's filling up our headspace, and we need to park it somewhere so that we can then get on with whatever the program is. So part of the reason for doing something like this is to help people park it and to move on to what we're talking about. So with that, it's time to move on to our next section. So thank you, panelists, for your questions. And now Kat is going to present the next part of our presentation for us. And so Kat, I hand it over to you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you all this morning. And I'm really thankful to Peterson for rehearsing with me a bunch of times, because I am a tech klutz. So hopefully this will all work. So I'm going to lead us in a land acknowledgement. There's a danger of this important part of our time together becoming performative or passive or perfunctory. In our yearly meeting, we're trying to do something different every time. Keep on shaking it up. We're trying to do something different every time we meet, build in ways for people to participate, and find ways to help this become more transformative. Today, I'm going to present a brief slideshow naming the Native peoples who live or have lived in the area covered by Northern Yearly Meeting. The pictures include both historical and contemporary images. It's important to honor the present as well as the past, and help us to begin to consider how can we create a better shared future. Ordinarily, I would use Native music. However, I did not get permission to do that for this recorded session, so Peterson made us a soundtrack. It starts out in the morning in a forest, it moves to the coast, it then goes to the summer tundra, and then it closes out in a forest at nighttime. You may hear a forest crackling at some point, or footsteps. There's a baby fussing at some point. think of this as a day in the life of Turtle Island. The pictures that you'll be seeing are of the Ojibwe, Chippewa, Anishinaabe, Ottawa, Fox, Meskwaki, Sauk, Iowa, Omaha, Potawatomi, Oneida, Ho-Chunk, Stockbridge, Munsee Mohican, Stockbridge, Munsee Mohican, the Sioux Confederation, Mandan, Hidatsa, Arikara, and Kickapoo. While we take a moment to honor this land and its original inhabitants, we invite you to type into the chat screen the names of any First Nations peoples who lived or live where you are right now. If you don't know, that's okay. We will read some of these names aloud shortly. Massachusetts, Wampanoag, Lenni Lenape, Monacan, Navajo, Hopi, Cherokee, Penobscot, Erie, Tongva for Claremont, Anishinaabe, Odawa, Mississauga, Pequot, Osage, Wampanoag, Kumeyaay, Nacotchtank, Piscataway, Piscataway, Cayuga, Shawnee, Cherokee, Canarsie, Chochenyo, Seminole, Shakori, Eno, Lumbee, Council of Three Fires, Duwamish, Maliseet, Mohegan, Abenaki, Iroquois, Omaha, Ponca, Winnebago, Massawamek, Onondaga, Potawatomi, Arapaho, Ute, Kanaka Maoli, Passamaquoddy, Piscataway, Abnaki, Klamath, Mohawk, Powhatan, Akimel Autumn, Thank you, friends. It's rich to share these names and to remember all those who have lived here before us and with us now, who have inhabited and loved this land as we inhabit and love this land. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. That was beautiful and very good tech work you did there. Very well. Panel, we have questions and comments, and if you don't mind, I'll start with one for you, Kat. How has the land acknowledgement impacted your own yearly meeting?
You know, thank you. We only started doing this about 1.5 years ago, and it's actually had a significant impact. The first time we did it, we just read a standard sort of paragraph acknowledging who had been here before. And then we started shaking it up a little bit. And since the time that we started doing it, we have embarked on a study of the doctrine of discovery at the yearly meeting level. We have created a subcommittee that works on this. We've written a formal letter from our yearly meeting to stop the Enbridge pipeline in collaboration and solidarity with Native people who want us to do that. We've started a couple, we're looking into joining work with the Boarding School Healing Coalition. We've done a bunch of things that we weren't doing before. And I think the fact that we've not only done the land acknowledgement, but insisted that we do something different every time has pushed people. It's pushed us to try harder, to think deeper, to use this as a tool of transforming ourselves rather than a box to check off and say, well, we did that. We showed ourselves to be noble and woke. So I think it really has been dynamic because we keep on pushing it. And I keep on trying to get different people to do it. And most recently, the person who did it led us in what I think was sort of a cross between a guided meditation and a prayer that people found really powerful. We've also used it as an entry into some additional activities that took longer. For example, a long worship sharing and small group breakout on our relationships with individual pieces of land and water that we're really attached to, and then use that to lead into, so what does the doctrine of discovery mean for the people who lost their land? Imagine losing and being severed from the land that nurtured you, that sort of thing.
Thanks. Jean Marie, Kai?
I got so wrapped up in listening to Kat's response that I totally lost my question. It'll come back.
Well, and I loved so much having the photos there with it, that it's not just a list of names, but we're seeing the people past and present. And hearing you describe the ways that other things have engaged other parts of how we think about this, like the worship sharing and the small breakout groups. I'm just curious about both other ways that you've tried and other things that the group has thought about that might be in ways of acknowledging in these many different ways, because you've thought about so many different ways so far, and just curious what else might there be?
Well, one of the things that I've kind of got in mind, although if I assign this job to someone else, they may have something else completely different. But one of my thoughts is to look at the boarding school issue as we begin to do maybe more of a dive into that, show pictures of the boarding schools and include quotes. Paula Palmer has done this great research on that, and she's got a bunch of primary source quotes. And I could imagine that reading some of those aloud or having them just on a screen with some kind of soundtrack in the background, I think that could be powerful in bringing people into that boarding school experience in a much more emotionally engaging and resonant way. So that would be one idea that I have. I think you could take any number of current issues going on for Native peoples where you live, raise that up with a few pictures and some information as, you know, like maybe part of a worship sharing. Make your land acknowledgement a piece of your worship. It's not something to be gotten out of the way before you start your business. Make it a piece of your worship, a piece of your business, and a piece of your community. Let people process it together.
And what's lovely about Zoom is that you can show the images. It's a lot harder in a physical meeting. You know, we're not really equipped with the technology always to show high resolution photos, and it's one of those advantages in Zoom that you can do that. And thanks, they were lovely images.
Where I just want to tack on this whole piece that you've threaded through several of your remarks about direct permission and the importance of not assuming that you can use whether it's music or images and how you've handled that connection, particularly when you live in a yearly meeting that has a significant number of tribes engaged.
I will confess that I am not an expert on this, and I asked Peterson about using the music, which I know Paula Palmer had gotten formal permission to use in her live workshops, and I had used the same music in live settings. It seemed clear to me that something different would be needed for well, I wasn't in fact, all that clear to me. But I figured we needed permission for a recorded session, and Peterson was gracious enough to make a soundtrack, which I actually love. And I would love to use it again. And I would defer to Peterson on that. I think the permission really, really matters. And I don't feel like an expert on that.
Yeah, and you have my permission to use it again and again and again. So feel free to do that. Yeah, and permission does matter, and acknowledgement matters too. When you use people's photos and all, whenever you can, acknowledge that. We're going to move on though, because we want to keep this moving. And one of the things important when you have these sort of times together is to stay close to time. And if one thing you don't know perhaps is that we're all working from a script that we worked out ahead of time so that we have it all organized where we're going. And now, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what sort of setting you're in, Jean Marie is going to help us to get into the forest. Jean Marie?
Thank you so much, Peterson. And that movement from the large global, what are we doing out there in the world, to what's about the land that we inhabit in a broader sense, to this very much more personal connection, felt like a useful way of beginning to funnel our attention towards spirit. Certainly what we know is that when we gather with people in person, we have all kinds of cues that we use to figure out where they are, what's going on with them. We can hug, we can see them in 3D. We have a different sense of connectedness, even if it's only shorthand, even if it's only quick. When we are on Zoom or other electronic media, we have not only the fact that people are in 2 dimensions and in little teeny tiny boxes, but also that not even everybody who is with us often in a meeting is visible to us, whether that's because we have multiple screens, or it's because some folks choose not to turn their cameras on, or because they're joining by telephone. We have different levels of access to seeing people and getting a sense of where they are. And so having something formal that allows a different kind of connectedness and a different kind of understanding of where people are coming from can be a very useful kind of thing. In a few moments, we're going to enter into one such exercise that will allow us to do that. And I, for simplicity of good sense, call it the tree exercise, because we'll be looking at trees and how we relate to them and how they speak to us. Once I get to that moment, I'll give you specific instructions. But as you watch through these slides, what I'm going to ask you to do is to really think about how that image speaks to you, where it connects to you in terms of where you are in your life right now. And like Kat, I'm a little technologically challenged, so let's see if I can actually share the screen that I want to share. Come on. There we go. As you look at these images for the next few moments, notice each one and imagine for yourself which tree you might be. Perhaps you are fragile and in flower. Perhaps you're supporting and strong. You might be feeling highly decorative or with roots that run wide. Perhaps in this moment, you are reaching out, or you may feel well weathered by the storm, growing high and tall, supporting others grow, standing proud in the sunset. You may see yourself intertwined with others, or standing in a fog, alone and standing proud, or perhaps surrounded by many others much like yourself. You may feel that you are bearing much good fruit of many different kinds, offering a different direction, alone, or as part of a group. Noticing the delicate presence you bring to the here and now. You may be in transition or reaching into your current strength. Glorious in flower, delicate and productive, similar to others, and yet unique. You may see yourself as one of a kind, or as part of a whole, grounded and waiting for the storm, reflective, rough and ready, always making the best of the circumstances, offering much, growing, bringing zest, sharing your wisdom. So we're going to pause. I should have started out by saying, friends, that I also have a disclaimer to make, which is that I'm also in my week of just post-COVID shot, second COVID shot, and my voice is coming and going, so bear with me. I'd like you to take a moment to reflect, and then add to the chat which of these or some other tree speaks to you at this moment in your life. Aspen, dense forest, palm trees, redbud, Douglas fir, growing roots, ferns, olive tree, Norway pine, growing tall, good for climbing, bends in the wind but doesn't break, thirsty in the desert, cypress with its interconnected roots, the rhythmic patterning of ferns, forest of trees, Japanese maple, the American elm in Chester Park, blueberry, maple in transition. It's helpful to remember that we are part of nature like the trees, and nature includes all. Magnolia, the oaks in my local forest, in the magical light, weathered and intertwined roots. Saguaro, new shoots growing up at the edge of a stream. A transitioning maple, flowering trees, apple. The redbud in the woods in Virginia. The beauty of the fall colors, twisted and weathered and shaped, a work of art with everyone and God as the artist. Reflecting, sharing, listening in a forest full of many kinds of trees. Franklinia, for its flowers, sugar maple, the dry roots at the edge of the Grand Canyon, one of birch along the water, palm grass achieving treehood. So friends, having become and shared your trees, we're going to do one more small bit that allows us to look at how we come together. I'd ask you to close your eyes if you wish, or in some other way, retreat a little bit from all of these images on the screen. Because you, new tree that you have just become, need a place to be planted so you can find the nourishment and companionship that you need to flourish. As we take this mental walk, see if you can find a place that suits you so that you can grow to your fullest potential. We begin right where we are and explore the path that unfolds before us. It's a smooth path with low growing things alongside. They look like they are newly planted and taking root. Someone has tended to these growing things. As we continue, the growth becomes taller and looks more established. The path takes us to what looks like an old, now abandoned garden with large shrubs and old fruit trees helter-skelter. And then there are large open places as well, just out of view. As we move further onward, the trees get larger, some thriving, some with lost branches, some growing tall, some spreading wide. The trees offer shade. They've given their leaves to the ground beneath them, and we sense the heavy, damp smell of growth and decay, of living and dying and rebirth, all intertwined. Look around, take a deep breath in, and let it out. Imagine the perfect place for you, tree that you now are, to be planted and take root and thrive. Which company will you seek? Which company will you keep? Where will you get what you need? Take a breath, friends, and then let me invite you back into this time and this place.
Thank you, Jean Marie. We only have about 2 minutes to discuss, and I want to recognize that your voice, you've done a lot. So I'm thinking for our panelists just to mention best practice that you want to highlight in Jean Marie's presentation. For instance, two I noticed was not only did she use images, but really beautiful high resolution images without any text. It was just the image and the voice, and that she had a script, which I find is very useful to keep me on track with Zoom. It's much easier to get distracted. Kat, Kai, what are some best practices that you notice that you want to highlight?
With this, there was the opportunity both for seeing the trees of what is resonating for folks visually and also auditorially. So there was opportunity for people who may not be able to see the screen to still engage, and there was opportunity for people who may have some challenges hearing to still engage. And so that way of mixing media to broaden the audience and be able to reach many people was wonderful.
Yeah, the one thing that I would add would be that I felt like it was very much honoring all different kinds of people and temperaments. This was an activity that I think just about anybody could enter into and get a toehold. which is wonderful to have. If there's time for a question, mine would be, when might you use this?
Oh, golly, lots of times. I've used it at the beginning of committee meetings as a way to pull people in. I've used it when we needed a break, when we were just too funneled in to head stuff and needed a break that would allow you to enter a more imaginative space, perhaps a more playful space, but also a space that still asked of you how you connected.
Great. And you also did another great practice was you gave people a chance to, participants to engage, not only to just think and feel, but to share their responses. And I love the way you just took your time to read them. You were very relaxed and unflustered. I struggle with the chat reading things out, but you really demonstrated a lovely way of doing that. Well, folks, we're in for a treat because, when you're on a Zoom, you sit a lot, but I believe you might get the opportunity to move around a little bit with this next activity that Kai has for us. Take it away, Kai.
Yeah. Well, and so Jean Marie mentioned the opportunity to take a break, a pause from the ways that we might be sitting and just staring at the screen. And so this activity that I'll lead you in is an opportunity to do just that. It also draws us together in community by there's a chance in the middle to go into breakout rooms and share something with each other. And so when we come to large gatherings of people, not everybody knows each other. And sometimes it's a wall of many boxes of unknown people. And so the opportunity to go into a small space and get to know a few people just a little better means that when we come back together, there's some boxes that and maybe a few minutes later, there's another small group to know more people, or throughout the weekend, or whatever workshop. So this is an opportunity to do that. This is a very small version of a scavenger hunt. There's going to be one prompt, and it will be in the chat momentarily. This prompt you can adapt to whatever situation you're doing, so it might go along with the theme of the workshop. In this case, the prompt that we'll do is, what is something that reminds you of home? So I'm going to continue to describe the exercise, and then I will tell you when it's time to go get that object. But you're going to get up or go or reach on your desk if you don't want to get up and move, and get an object that reminds you of home. Now, this doesn't have to be home as in a place. Home can be where family is, or it might be out in nature or something else. And the process here will send folks to breakout rooms first. Well, not yet, but we'll send folks to breakout rooms first. And then you'll have 2 minutes to go get your object, and then 2 minutes each, or a minute and a half, 2 minutes each to each share a little bit about that. And just as an example, I brought, this would be an object I might bring. I brought this tiny little pine cone from getting to visit recently the tree that I climbed many, many times in college. And there were there's branches up at the top to where I can just lay down many branches all at the same level, and I can just lay up there and be among the birds and the wind. And so when I got to visit recently, I got there, and it felt like a spiritual home to return to. And so that might be, in your breakout rooms, you will have 2 minutes. You'll have a little more time to share than that, but that's just something that an example of what something might be. So we will put into chat this query, and let's see, just a moment. That is now in chat to everyone, and we'll send you into breakout rooms, and then you'll have 2 minutes. We'll send messages at 2 minutes, and then when it's time to switch people. So you have 2 minutes to go get an object, and then sorry, one more thing. If you are we want to engage people who are on phone or can't see. So describe your object so that folks who might not be able to see can still, you know, get a chance to experience the object. And I think that's all before we send folks to
I
breakout
have a
rooms.
question, Kai.
Yes,
I
Peterson.
just want to make sure I understand the instructions. So when we're going to be put into breakout rooms, and the first thing you want us to do once we're in the breakout rooms is to get up and get the object. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And then take about 2 minutes to find that object nearby or whatever. And then when we get back to those great breakout rooms, they'd share what we brought. Is that right?
Yep. And we're sending folks into breakout rooms first so that there's an opportunity if somebody's having an issue getting into the room that the time where there is already a space gets to be the time that the tech things also get figured out. So.
Quick question, how much time are we going to have after we have found our objects to share?
Each person will get 2 minutes, and there's 3 to 4 people in there. So we'll send messages at about each 2 minutes mark. Maybe a little less because there's 4 if there's 4 people. But about, you know, a little over between 90 and 120 seconds.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Want to have time for a panel discussion because the breakout room was rather long, but hopefully at the end we'll get a chance to talk about that. But I think the benefits and the best practices are pretty obvious, you know, and you explained it beautifully at the beginning, this need to get up and move around. But we want to give you a chance to spend time going a little bit deeper. So each one of us panelists actually will host a breakout room, and we're going to give you a chance to choose to go to one of 4 breakout rooms, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into different areas. And if it's hard for you to decide which breakout room, don't worry about it. They're all going to be great. You're going to learn something from each one, but they're going to be 4 breakout rooms. We're going to put this in the chat, and you're going to have to decide which one you want to do. So Kat in room number 1 is going to talk about spiritual nurture online and different ways of fostering that. I'm going to be in breakout room 2 about how to use multimedia, like films, images, music, sound, to deepen worship, community, and empathy. In room number 3, Jean Marie will be discussing and engaging people in the use of queries and other techniques to bring spirit into meetings. And in 4, Kai is going to look at opportunities that Zoom gives us that are actually harder or more complicated to do than in actual spaces. And if you have the more recent version of Zoom, you'll get an opportunity to choose which room you want to go to, 1, 2, 3, or 4. But if for whatever reason that option doesn't come up for you, just stay where you are and let our tech folks, Anne's doing an amazing job, just let whoever's doing tech know what room you want to be in. Anne, did you need to say anything else about that? Was that clear enough?
You've covered it well. Thank you, Peterson.
Thanks. So in the chat, you see the 4 different breakout rooms. You've got to choose. And I won't be heartbroken if you don't choose me. All of them are going to be great. And Anne's in charge, and she'll lead us into these, usher us into the rooms.
This is new technology for us, friends, but there should be an option on your screen to choose a breakout room. You may see the list of 4. If you hover your cursor over breakout rooms, and then you hover your cursor over where the list comes up, it should give you the option to choose a room. So I'll just give a minute for friends who have that option on their screen to take advantage of that. And if it's not working for you, just please remain in this room and I'll move you into whichever room you say you'd like to go into.
And Anne, I would assume all of us don't have to choose. You're going to put us where we belong. Is that right?
Actually, you should choose if the option is there for you, but I can move you if you need to be moved.
I mean, you learned a lot. We have 5 minutes left to our presentation. And we want to end by giving you a chance to simply just think about a takeaway that you have from our session today. And we'll give you a chance to say thanks to our panelists and all in a moment. But based on what you've seen and experienced, is there a takeaway that you have of a lesson that you've learned or something you've been reminded of, a question that you have that you want to research, something you want to challenge yourself to try? Think about a takeaway that you have from our session today and pop it into the chat. I'll give you a chance to think about that. What is a takeaway you have? I encourage you to look at other people's takeaways. It may inspire you as well. Panelists, we have about 2 minutes. So Jean Marie, Kat, and Kai, any last words you want to say?
I think I really want to encourage friends to be bold about experimenting with new things, that we have the way that we do things, and we've become very set and patterned in that way. To try out new things allows us to find different roads in and different ways of reflecting spirit. And that's really quite a fun adventure to be on.
Thanks.
And to build on that, just thinking about what are the opportunities that Zoom gives us that we couldn't do in person, and so how is this not just second best, but what are the ways that this can really be wonderfully additional and that supports our seeking and our spirit led processes.
Kat?
I really agree. I think that if I were to say one thing, it would be the same, to just experiment, try new stuff. If something doesn't work for people, find out what would. Just keep on throwing ideas out there and trying them. And what we've found is that we've managed to reach everybody in our worship group and find ways to keep them engaged. And our yearly meeting has had remarkably well-attended sessions considering they've been online. I think we've gotten some new engagement in part as a result of having to meet this challenge.
And the last thing I would say is practice. We had rehearsals. We rehearsed this. We got together. And that's really important to do. Let's show some love to the panelists. You have a reaction feature at the bottom. I see Helen has a hand up. I understand that, but I have to move on because our session is over. But maybe you can pop that question you have, Helen, to me in the chat. And I also want to thank Anne, Lori, Ruth, Barry, the folks at FGC for giving us so much support to making this happen. Thank you so much for being part of this panel and coming to it. And I need to hand it back over to Lori, somebody?
Yep, that's me. Thank you. Thank you, Peterson, Kai, Kat, and Jean Marie, and thanks to all of you who navigated in and out of the breakout rooms and engaged in the activities. I really felt our humanity and spirit in the activities that we just engaged in, and I'm grateful for it. We will now take a break. We will regroup at 1:45 Eastern, 12:45 Central, 11:45 Mountain, 10:45 Pacific for our roundtable discussions. You'll be able to select your roundtable at that time. A preview list of the roundtables is in the chat now and will be displayed after a few minutes on the screen here during the break. A roundtable called Threshing Session, Racism, William Penn, and Social Media will be available in the second session only. Please note that. If you live and experience life as a person of color, we do invite you to the People of Color Affinity Space beginning in about 15 minutes at 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 Central, 11 Mountain, 10 Pacific. And at that time, you can ask me or the tech support Zoom host for access to that affinity space breakout room, and we will assist you. So have a good break. We'll see you at 1:45 Eastern.
Thank you so much, Peterson.
That was fun. Great job.
Aren't able to join us for the panel, but are joining us for the roundtables. So we'll welcome people as they arrive. So this is the roundtables portion of our program today. A reminder that this consultation is being recorded, and that if you do not want to be recorded, you can turn off your camera and change your name to something like participant. Also a reminder to roundtable leaders to start recording once you're in your breakout room. If you feel like you need assistance with that, please say something in the chat. There will be 2 roundtable sessions. The first one starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific. The other starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, and 12 p.m. Pacific. Each of the roundtable topics will be offered at both sessions except for the threshing session, which will only be offered in the second round. When the roundtable discussions close, we will all come back here to the main room. We'll give a set of instructions and you'll be able to select your topic breakout room for the next session. We've practiced that quite a bit already, but for people who are new, you will click on the breakout room that pops up on your screen. That's the one that you want to join. If you have difficulty doing this, you can change your name to the topic that you would like to join, or you can chat us and let us know the topic that you would like to join, and we will move you to that room. If you are connected by phone, please remain in the main room and a tech support person will help you move you to the room that you choose. These instructions will also be posted in the chat. If you wish to leave the breakout room at some point, click Leave Room to return to the main session. So you will notice that there's a Leave Room and a Leave Meeting. You want to make sure that if you're not wanting to leave the meeting, that you click leave room. Once you're back in the main session, we'll do what we can to help you. So roundtable facilitators, we remind you to start recording once you're in your breakout room. Anne, are we ready to put the list, the options up?
We are.
Yes, I'm having some technical difficulties, sorry.
I just want to let roundtable leaders know that I have promoted you to co-host, but if there's anyone I've missed, please let me know and I will make sure that you're a co-host so that you have the ability to record your session.
Danielle, don't worry. Anne, I'm able to put the list in the chat. Would you like me to do that?
Thank you. That would be great.
Great.
Would you like me to post the slide, Anne?
Yes, thank you, Ruth. I will open the breakout rooms now, friends. If you have any difficulty choosing one for yourself, as Lori said, please just remain where you are and we'll make sure we get you to your chosen room.
And can you quickly tell me which one is Francisco's?
Yes, it is
Religious education for adults.
room 5, Walter. Thank you.
And can you tell me which is the one for the future of hybrid gatherings?
Yes, there's actually a slide posted now. The gatherings one is, where are we? Room 9. No, wait, I'm sorry, that's annual sessions. Gatherings is 4.
How about 6, Anne? How do I get in 6?
So, Anne, future of worship is in 4 or is it in
7?
Worship. So
Jay, you're in 7.
Future of worship is there.
And how do I get into J number 7?
Jan, I can move you to number 7 right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you move me, Anne, to 6?
To 6, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'd like to go to 7, Mary Myers.
Mary, thank you, Mary. There we go.
I don't have any choices.
Some computers don't give you that option, but you should be seeing the invitation to join now. Margaret, where would you like me to put you?
7. 7.
All right. There you go. And Carol?
7, please.
Right.
And could I go to 8, please? That's LBM.
Okay, Carol was 6.
No, 7.
7.
Please.
7. And LBM 8?
8.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Grace Gifford, 4, please.
Grace Gifford. Room 4, there we go.
Thank you.
Kessler, room 7. There we go, Diane. Ellen, where would you like to go?
Let's try 1.
All right.
I was invited to room 7 and I wanted to go to room. Yes. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Wesley, where can I move you?
Room 7, please.
Room 7, there you go. And David?
Room 9, please.
All right, there you are. Esau. You'll need to unmute, I'm sorry, so I can hear you.
7.
7, there we go.
But
Can we move
will we
Kathleen?
have in effect?
7 when you get a chance, please. Thank you, Anne.
Okay, Kathleen, I will also make you a co-host. I had forgotten
you.
to do that.
No problem.
Let me take care of that before I move you, because I don't think I can do it once I move you.
Okay, either way.
Let's see. There we go. Okay, Kathleen, and I'm sorry, which room number was it for you?
Room 7, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
There we go. You're welcome. Claire, where would you like to go?
8 or 10.
Okay, 10 will only occur in the second session, so I'll send you to 8 now, and you can choose 10.
Thank you.
Okay. And number 4, I see your choice. There we go.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Anne. I'm still trying to find the future of worship with Jay and Kathleen. Can you put me in that room?
That's 7.
That's 7. Let's see.
Let me see if I can get there myself. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Worship. Thank you.
Barbara, would you like to join a room?
7, please.
Righty. Word. Oh, no, this is odd.